So looking back at earlier review periods, we also recognise that financing costs were much higher actually in the period immediately following privatisation, so returns were just inherently higher. And then I think we're also very aware.
Water companies have only siphoned off £52 billion in dividends since privatisation, but don't worry. They've graciously reduced payouts to a mere 3% recently. Because nothing says essential public service quite like executives admitting they took on debt just to keep shareholders happy while your bills skyrocketed. Watch the video, and before you start, if you haven't yet, hit like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to stay updated. Drop your thoughts below. Let's hold the government accountable.
Do you want to just remind the committee, since privatisation, how much has been paid out to shareholders in dividends?
There's about £52 billion paid out in dividends based on off records over the last 34 years. And if you look at the last 7 years, there's been a marked reduction in the level of dividends. So they're talking, we're averaging in the most recent years around 3% returns. I quite agree. In earlier periods, they were too high. And I think when we look at reasons that drove the high dividends, we saw there were, I think, higher returns from financing outperformance, and that was something that was talked about at the Public Accounts Committee in 2016. So looking back at earlier review periods, we also recognise that financing costs were much higher actually in the period immediately following privatisation, so returns were just inherently higher. And then I think we're also very aware of companies taking on debt to pay dividends, particularly in the case of one or two companies in the sector. So in terms of actions that we've taken as a regulator, so up until 2021, we lacked powers to change company licences to properly police this area. We've been given those powers in the Environment Act 2021. We've imposed new licence conditions on companies to regulate their level of dividends and ensure that they're linked to performance. And I should say dividends are an important part of the sector in terms of a privately funded sector.
Yes, and so are you inviting us to believe today that the balance between dividends to shareholders and the amount invested is correct?
Yeah, so dividends are around, as I say, around 3% a year. There's about £5 billion of new equity being raised over the last 5 years. So in fact, there's more equity being raised by companies than dividends being paid out in recent years. So I think the balance has changed. The question is, can we keep that balance right in the years to come as well?
In your judgment, is the balance now right between dividends paid out to shareholders and the amount of money that is being invested?
I think at a sector level, it looks much like it's in balance back to where it ought to be. There's still questions about individual companies. So for example, we took action to fine Thames Water when we believe they paid a dividend inappropriately a year or two back. So there are still cases where we have concerns, but if we look at broadly across the sector, we're seeing dividends.
What you've collectively described to us this afternoon is basically a breakdown in regulation for which consumers and small businesses have paid a price, while billions of pounds has been routed out to shareholders. So
don't forget to like this video if you're tired of politicians treating Parliament like amateur hour. Subscribe and click the bell icon for more accountability breakdowns, and drop your thoughts below.